I literally just made this Reddit profile for the purposes of typing this story out. I look to gain nothing from it. All I really want to do is raise awareness of some of the creepy things that go on. I see far too many dating app horror stories. I'm 23, female, and I've been single for a while. I go out on dates very rarely, but I just recently moved to a new city. I've been struggling with loneliness from not knowing anyone, and I don't have any real friends from work yet, so I took things to Bumble and Tinder. After maybe a week of swiping, I eventually came across a dude that I matched with. He was really cute and had a good job, had similar interests as me, and was the same age. Should have known better. We talked for about a week. After a couple of days, we exchanged numbers. We talked about life, about our jobs, and he was sweet. He gave me assurance and told me that a new move could be scary, but that putting myself out there was a good step in the right direction. He did get strange with me at one point, asking me things like what color bra and underwear I was wearing. I told him I wasn't quite ready to talk like that. He agreed it was out of line and apologized. Didn't think much else of it. After about a week, he wanted to meet up in person. He wanted it to be in a public place so that I would feel safe. He told me that he would take me to dinner, and if I wanted, after we could grab a beer. Sounded like a fun night to me. He wanted to meet outside of a dive shop, which I thought was a little bit strange. It's winter where we are, but it's one of those US states that doesn't really see cold winters, so I didn't give it a great amount of thought. The shop is located near a public park, so there are a good amount of people there. After looking for a bit, I spotted him talking to some people. I walked up to him and gave him a hug. Not like super romantic, but more than a platonic and less than a partner kind of hug. To my disappointment, he just sort of placed his palms on my back like he was put off, but he did give me a small smile and said, "How are you?" I tried making it work, and I told him he looked a lot cuter in person and that I was happy that he asked me out. I was extremely nervous. His eyes widened and he turned to ask the group he was previously talking to who put me up to it. With no expression of humor, they all just calmly denied anything. He then asked me who told me to do this. I was confused. I told him that we had been talking on Tinder, and he told me he didn't have a Tinder, and even went up as far as showing me that he didn't have it downloaded. He apologized for the mix-up. I showed him the profile and he seemed equally confused. I turned away and started walking back to my car. I was so humiliated. Then I got a text message from a number that I had been talking to that simply read, "Ha ha ha." I could not even fathom that. I attempted to call the number, but it had been disconnected. By the time I got home, the profile had been deleted. I blocked the number just in case. I had some of the photos saved that the profile sent me. I did a reverse image search on Google and found the Facebook profile of the guy I actually met. His name wasn't the same, and he was actually a few years older. I also figured out he was a dive instructor at the shop. I felt so violated. I did send the guy a message, the actual one, and apologized for the inconvenience. I explained everything to him and why I was acting that way. I gave him as much of the story as I felt necessary. To my surprise, he actually responded back and said he was sorry and that he was blindsided by the encounter. He did offer to take me out for a drink to make up for the mess, but I simply have severe trust issues now. This happened to me in the fall of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. My friend, let's call him Jay, and I were on our way from New York City to Michigan to do a couple of vinyl flooring jobs and also scout some potential properties to renovate and flip. We were also using his work truck, which was a Ford F-150. We decided to leave in the evening and make the drive all night to get to our destination. We were on the I-80, which is a 2-lane highway that passes through the mountains of Pennsylvania. This highway is far from safe. It's elevated in mountainous terrain. There are constant turns, and it snakes around a lot, so if you go through the guardrail, you're flying down in the darkness of a ditch. Anyways, I'm driving while Jay is trying to get some sleep. I stop at a service plaza to refuel and run into the shop real quick to get some drinks and snacks for the road. It's a little bit past midnight, and I notice another car refueling a few pumps from us. It was a red or burgundy SUV, I think a Mazda, but I paid it and the driver no mind as I ran back to the truck. Fast forward 30 minutes later, and I'm cruising in the left lane doing 90. Then I noticed the headlights behind us. It was the same red SUV from the service plaza. I first didn't think anything of it, but it dawned on me that this guy had been following me since the service plaza. I decided to do a quick test to see if I'm being tailed or not. Since I was doing 90 consistently, I slowed down to 70 and waited to see if he passed me. The guy also slowed down with me, so now I'm on alert. I wake Jay up and tell him the situation. "Hey bro, I think this guy is following us." My friend Jay is an ex-Army Ranger who was a lot more vigilant than me and also crazier. Immediately, he says, "Oh, that's the car from the gas station. I noticed the guy was looking at you extra hard when you passed him." Okay, switch lanes and see what he does. So I switch lanes and the SUV does so as well. Okay, slow down to a stop and pull over on the shoulder and see what he does. I listen to Jay and slow down to a complete stop on the shoulder of the highway. This freaking lunatic slows down and parks behind us. "Wow, this guy has a lot of balls. He's definitely got a gun on him," Jay exclaimed. "Okay, pull out and gun it to 90. "I have an idea," he says. I take stock of what we have in the truck that could be used as weapons. We had a hatchet and a machete, and each of us had a folding knife on us but no firearms. I pull off the shoulder and stay in the right lane as I press down hard on the gas. Jay wants me to brake check the guy, so he crashes into the back of us and then charge the car with a machete and a hatchet and hope for the best. At this point, he isn't an active threat yet. If he tries to ram the truck or shoot at it, then it's a different story, but right now I decided against it. Jay looks around the inside of the truck and grabs a high-powered handheld spotlight and opens the back window of the truck. Okay, I'm going to light his ass up and see if we can get a good look at him. So he turns on the spotlight, and guess what? The guy's front windows are heavily tinted, so we can't get a look at his face. "Yo, Jay, I'm going to switch lanes. See if you can aim at the side. Maybe his side windows aren't tinted." So I quickly swerve onto the left lane. As I do that, Jay turns on the spotlight again. I make sure to turn my heads toward the SUV at the same time. For the 3 seconds we had him illuminated, I will never forget the look of this guy. He was tall, at least over 6'3", because he was hunched over the steering wheel. He had the face of Uncle Fester from the Addams Family and the hair of Kramer from Seinfeld, along with the 5 o'clock shadow. Once he saw that I wasn't alone and that we knew what he looked like, he turned at a truck rest stop area. To this day, Jay and I get into a debate about whether I should have brake checked the guy or not. He's under the impression that the guy was a potential serial killer and that he ended up finding another victim instead of being killed by us, and possibly a trucker sleeping in his cab. I've analyzed the situation and concluded that this guy's intentions were definitely evil. How evil? Robbery at the minimum, kidnapping and murder at the worst. Thankfully, I was able to never find out. What do you guys think? This happened about 15 years ago, and I still have shivers down my spine when I think about it. I was a student at a small university where everybody knew everyone. All of the students in my class were very close to each other. There weren't many of us, so solidarity was the norm. During the third year, 15 Chinese students joined our class, 14 girls and only 1 man. The girls were nice, and we welcomed them with open arms. They integrated very quickly. The man, meanwhile, hardly ever spoke. He was very secretive, dressed quite extravagantly, and always hypertense or stressed. My closest friends and I tried to push him out of his comfort zone a bit. We used to help each other with studies. We thought that was normal. We quickly realized that it was a mistake. When he spoke to us, which was very rare, his words were incomprehensible and he was completely delirious. He always told us about his fascination for death, how music made him want to kill people, and how he hated women. We tried not to judge him and just worked, but he became more and more uncomfortable with us, and every day he told us more and more horrible things. After a while, it was rumored that he was harassing a lot of girls in our university. He managed to get their phone numbers and was calling them day and night, or he was following them down the street to their house. It was very creepy and scary for everyone. One girl in particular really didn't appreciate him following her and filed a complaint against him. He was questioned by the police as well as by the headmaster of the university and asked to go to the hospital for psychiatric treatment. We didn't see him for a few months after that, so we thought he was off for treatment. Then one day, suddenly he reappeared in class, but his gaze had become extremely disturbing. He stared at people for 10 minutes or more, as if he were going to jump at their throats. I felt very bad that day. And then one day, I learned that from a friend that he had come to the university with a huge butcher's knife. Apparently, he wanted to kill the girl who reported him to the police, but since she wasn't in school that day, he went to see her mother, who worked as a secretary in our department, and he killed her, slaughtered without any remorse. Some teachers present in the building tried to stop him, and they were seriously injured as well. Finally, he was able to be subdued and put in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of his life. This story traumatized us all, and even years later, we never talk about it between us. It was absolutely horrible. After that, I left university because it had become unbearable. This was one of the most shocking situations I've ever come across. My stepdaughter and I were chit-chatting on our way home when I pulled into a grocery store shopping center that had some gas pumps. I made an incorrect entrance into the shopping center and had to mistakenly drive around the Chase Bank to get to the gas station. As I round the corner to pump the gas, I see a nice new Mustang stopped in front of me, so I cannot get through. It's only a few seconds before I see a teenage girl get out from the passenger side wearing nothing but a hoodie. She has black pants and panties in her hands and walks swiftly right past my truck. She is clearly distressed, crying, and 100% just as young as my stepdaughter, 15-ish. It took me a second to realize what I just saw. I looked at my stepdaughter and said, "What the heck? That girl didn't even have pants on." I put my truck in reverse and she is getting dressed behind some bushes. I rolled down my window and yelled to her, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need some help?" She yells back, "Just leave me alone and mind your own business." At this point, the Mustang is no longer in sight and I can see my truck says 2-mile range before it is out of gas. I had music playing and didn't hear the truck being on empty until after I picked my daughter up from school and was talking. So I got to the pump and started pumping gas, trying to look for that Mustang. Then I see it circle back towards the girl. I immediately stopped the pump and got back in to drive that direction. I fire up my camera to get his license plate number. I at first couldn't see the girl anymore, but the Mustang is now double parked near the bank. As I pull up behind the car to get a picture of the plates, my stepdaughter says that she can see the girl, and she's back in the passenger seat. The Mustang has tinted windows, but it's like 3 p.m. The sun is shining, and they weren't super dark, so I could see 2 people in the front seat and notice big hand gestures and movement in the car. They were clearly fighting and arguing. I don't even know if they noticed that I had driven past them to snap a photo at that point. After that, I just said, "Screw it, it's time to call the police," my stepdaughter said. But she said she didn't need help. "Are you sure?" I was like, "Girl, if you were in this situation and 2 women saw you half naked crying, walking away from a man or boy in a car, while carrying your clothing, I'd hope they would have called too, no matter what you said to them. We also live in Arizona. My truck said it was 98 degrees. She was a very thin girl with faded out, grown out black hair. She had a hoodie on. Things weren't really adding up. Who wears a hoodie in 100-degree weather? If it was a simple argument between a young high school couple, why not throw your pants on before walking through a parking lot completely commando? Plus, in case you didn't know, Arizona is sort of known for sex trafficking and having a large homeless or drug-addicted population. There are these blue pills, I think a type of fentanyl that a lot of young kids get started on called blues, that are usually smoked and it just destroys a person. Not to mention the methamphetamine all over here also. By the end of my phone call with the police, the dispatcher that I was talking to said that an officer had arrived on scene and found the Mustang. She asked if they could call me later. I of course said yes. I don't know if that is good or bad, but I'll update if/when I get more information. Lastly, whenever I, 35 female, had sex in a car as a teen, it was always nighttime and we would always try and at least park in a secluded area. Especially not in front of a building that probably has many cameras inside and outside of it. Anyways, I hope she's okay. I hope it was a misunderstanding and not something more serious. But damn, what a creepy thing to witness on a Thursday afternoon with your kid. No less. Update. So the police gave me a follow-up call today. And wow, I kind of felt bad, but I also kind of don't. So the girl is indeed underage, a freshman in high school and the driver of the car. Her boyfriend is a senior in high school, but he unfortunately is 18, right? Because my stepdaughter and I both saw her without any pants or underwear on, it makes things more serious, obviously. The teens both said they were just having an argument and that I was not telling the truth about her walking away from the vehicle, crying, carrying her pants. Now because there was another person in my vehicle, they wanted permission to interview and get a statement from my stepdaughter about what she saw. I am not legally her guardian, so I could not give permission. I pick my husband up from the airport tomorrow morning, so he has to give permission. He said he will take her in to give a statement on Monday. Stepdaughter is willing to talk to police, so my husband called and set everything up. Because the girl is underage, they had to contact her mother when the police arrived at her boyfriend's car. Her mom and now the boyfriend's parents were the ones initially requesting our official statements regarding what we saw because of the conflicting stories. However, the police said it would be helpful to them as well if the stepdaughter could give her statement, as 2 witnesses are better than 1. The officers I talked to today said there are some additional moving parts involving the case that he cannot discuss with me because of the investigation. So unfortunately, I cannot answer everybody's questions, but He did say this might be an ongoing case depending on a few things that they aren't necessarily certain of yet. They both asked me several times if I was sure of what I saw and if I was certain enough to testify in a courtroom setting, as that could very well be where this is headed. I just said yes, I'm sure. I initially felt badly because kids in high school hook up all the time. I didn't want this boy getting into trouble or having to potentially register as a sex offender for the rest of his life because I was told to just mind my own business and didn't. However, the more officers that talked to me, the more I felt like the situation was potentially much heavier than all of that. So that's the update I have for now. It's not much, but I'm sure to have called and reported it after all. If I can give another update in the future, I will. Thanks for all the encouragement too. I did inform the local police, and there was a PSA put up by the MSP a few weeks ago regarding a similar topic. I was not able to record the man, but I have taken the time to educate all of my friends who work in that area. Thank you, everyone. I'm trying to find other people around the same area as me. I live in southwest Michigan, about an hour away from Grand Muir State Park. This park has had 2 semi-recent attacks only 6 months apart. One incident included a female who was knocked unconscious and woke up hours later. She discovered she was injured. The other incident also included a female. She was attacked while walking her dog. Both women gave a description to the local police department. The descriptions from both victims had many similarities. These attacks happened in April and September in the same year, 2024. I enjoy hiking and geocaching in my free time. With the increase of attacks in the area, I tried to avoid Grand Muir. I found a neat little park with many geocaches hidden around the park. It was far enough away from Grand Muir where I felt comfortable to go off on my own. With my pocket knife, of course. About an hour into my adventure, I found myself a bit off the main trail. I was looking for a geocache. It was a very calm and quiet day. Usually, you can hear other people walking around. Birds, animals, and the waves from Lake Michigan. But I was met with an eerie silence. I couldn't help but feel as if I were being watched. I stood up and started to look around. My eyes locked with a man watching me from the main trail. Once our eyes met, he started walking towards me. I got this strange feeling that I need to get out of there. Being a woman in her 20s, alone in the woods with a strange man watching me was not ideal. I started walking back towards the main trail. My goal was to get some distance between the two of us. He blocked the path and tried to talk to me. I tried to keep walking, but he blocked the trail, making it hard to go around him. The path was surrounded by prickers, mud, etc. The man began to talk to me. He asked me if I was searching for mushrooms or if I had lost something. I explained to him I was geocaching but needed to get back to my car. The man gave me a creepy smile and continued to block me from continuing to walk to my car. Finally, I was able to end our strange conversation, choosing to take another path since he would not let me pass him. As I started walking away, I looked over my shoulder to see him still staring at me, just watching me walk further away. When I finally got back to the main trail, I stopped for a moment to look around to see if I could spot the man anywhere. I did not see him. I continued to walk back to my car. At this point, I can see the parking lot ahead of me. I only had a 4th mile or so to the parking lot. The man appeared from a small side trail and started walking behind me. As I walked faster, his footsteps started sounding faster. I looked over my shoulder again. He's about 200 feet away from me now. I walked faster and check on the man again. Now probably 100 feet. It's obviously apparent that he's trying to catch up. In that moment, my phone started ringing. My best friend was FaceTiming me. As I answered, I held up my phone as if I were trying to show my friend the park I found. Once the man realized I was on the phone, his pace slowed. I made it back to the parking lot and got into my car. I noticed the man was lingering into the parking lot until I was fully in my car. He slinked away towards a different set of trails until he vanished from my sight. The man seemed to be in his late 20s or 30s, average build, darker hair with green eyes. Has anybody else encountered a strange man around the area? And if you're reading this now and you were the strange man that followed me that day, following people in the woods is a horrible hobby. Please adopt a normal lifestyle. I used to fight with my parents a lot as a teenager, and that led to them kicking me out once I had graduated high school. I was almost 19 at this point, which for me wasn't a problem. I had my own job and my own car, and my friend's parents had a spare bedroom they were willing to let me rent out, so it worked out fine. This being said, I will change names, so let's call my friend Kelly and her mom Lena and her dad Kenneth. Kenneth and Lena had a lot of weird friends due to the fact that they were partiers. A lot of these friends were really nice people, just weird, and you could tell had issues such as drugs or criminal pasts. There was one guy, though, that was just beyond weird. Just someone who, even though I didn't know him, just made my skin crawl. We'll call him Joey. I came home from work one day, and the only person at our house was Joey. As soon as I walked in, he said hello and then made a comment about how beautiful I was. Now, I don't consider myself good looking in the slightest. I'm decent, even average at best. So I just kind of said thanks and walked off to do my normal routine. As I was making my lunch and cleaning up my mess, I felt someone staring at me. It was definitely Joey, obviously. He'd followed me into the kitchen and was just standing in the only doorway, staring at me. I asked if I could get him anything, but he just shook his head and continued staring. This made me feel so weird, so I just kind of nudged him over and headed straight for my room and locked the door until I heard my roommates get home. Joey left around dinner time and I thought it was fine and went about my nightly routine and went to bed as usual. But he must have came back because he was sitting at the breakfast table when I went to get my cereal. Again, the whole time he was just staring at me, so I ended up eating in my room. Friday night rolled around and Lena, Kenneth, and Kelly told me they were going to throw a huge party and I should invite whoever I want. I had a feeling Joey would be there, so I invited the most intimidating male person I know. My neighbor / friend Charles. He was a huge guy, 6'5", and if I guess, I'd say close to 300 pounds. He was also covered nearly head to toe in tattoos and was an ex-Hell's Angel, but he also was the type that, unless provoked, wouldn't hurt a fly. I explained while inviting him the day before about Joey. What he told me scared the shit out of me. He knew Joey and knew that he was on the run from the police for assaulting a teenage girl the year before and that I needed to stay far away from him. You think that's where the scary part ends? No, it actually gets worse. I'm usually not a cop caller, but I went straight home and packed my things and left for a safe place and called the police. Now here's the worst part. When they arrested him, they looked through his phone and it had multiple pictures of me on it. Most of them were me sleeping or in the shower. He also had texts to another person about me and about what he and this other person wanted to do with me. I no longer talk to Kelly or her parents, and when someone gives me a bad vibe, I instantly get away from them. I will forever be grateful to Charles because he probably saved my life. I'm a 25-year-old male. I started a job at a company that makes lenses for glasses, and immediately I was introduced to Nate, an awkward guy around my age that seemed like he had good intentions. He was nice enough, but I figured that most people humored him when it came to talking to him. I was convinced that he was on the spectrum in the realm of Asperger's. I've had friends in the past who have had Asperger's, and I didn't really mind. Besides, we seemed to like the same things, including Dungeons and Dragons. My D&D group was small, and we wanted more people, and knowing that he was into it, I invited him to come join. My now wife and fiance immediately grew uncomfortable when he came into our home to make his character, and when it came to actually playing sessions, another girl at our table also expressed that she was uncomfortable. I didn't feel great about it, so after about 3 or 4 sessions, we kicked him out and just continued playing. But of course, I still had to see him at work, which led to him always acting sad around me, but I wasn't going to give in. Eventually, I kept telling him that I was starting another group and he could join that one. His pity party was starting to annoy me, so I said whatever to keep him at bay. One day at work, he had the day off, and the following weekend, neither he nor my coworkers saw this as strange. But then when Monday came, he still didn't show up. Tuesday, no show. This was very unlike him because he was particularly a teacher's pet. Soon, one of my coworkers was moving around the warehouse with a phone in her hand, stopping people and sharing the news. Nate had been arrested in North Dakota as he attempted to meet an underage person for you-know-what. We were all in disbelief because that's the first feeling that hits you. You don't want to believe somebody like that could live in your town, let alone work right beside you. Indeed, he was in contact with a minor over the internet and set up a meeting at a park, with the exact kind of attentions that you're thinking about. The police were tipped off as a teacher just happened to see the messages on the girl's phone. I nearly puked when I heard the news. He was in my home and made comments about my kids being cute. Especially my daughter, which definitely made me more sick. He would talk to me sometimes about wanting a girlfriend and how he was just waiting for the right one to come along. Somebody in his church group, and now it scares me to think how old this girl was. One of my friends at work mentioned how he went to install a washer and dryer at Nate's house, and when looking around, he was yelled at by Nate to not go upstairs. Not in a, oh, that's my room and I prefer no one go up there type of vibe. More like there's something up there I don't want you to see type of thing. Well, he was arrested and put in prison. Like I said, and remains there to this day as far as I'm concerned. Just goes to show that you can't really know everybody, and that's what is truly scary. When I was a young med fledgling, I had to do some of my practices in our hospital's ER unit. The system was easy. Students were paired with a doctor, and each pair had their own office to receive triaged patients. If the day were busy, the pairs would be separated, and students could work on their own in a separate room, with their tutor coming near the end of the checkup to see the patient themselves and make corrections. It was one of those busy days where I met Mr. Javier. It was maybe a Wednesday afternoon. The place was pretty full, so we were all working at maximum capacity. I called the next patient, a 48-year-old man that gave "I am in pain" as his reason for consulting the nurse. He comes in and, well, looks like a normal dude. Probably 1.75 meters tall, not fit but not fat, black going gray hair, nothing out of order. He explains he has been having testicular pain for about a week, and he swears he can feel some nodules. No other health concerns or background. A very average case in a resume, so I move on, put on my gloves, and start doing the physical. For obvious reasons, I need to touch his testicles in search of the nodules or any other abnormalities. I was doing just that when the first red flag came to my mind. He came because he was feeling pain, but not once even flinched during the evaluation. Something, well, weird. Me. I can't feel any nodules. Mr. Javier. Javier, I am sure they're in there. Let me try. The man starts touching himself, trying to find the nodules. It is hard to explain, but while not directly sexual, his movements were not exactly innocent either. Too slow, too showy. He stretched his scrotum way too much, accidentally kept bringing his dick up and down with his hands, etc. It was like he was trying to show off his genitalia. He suddenly took my hand and dragged it to a place that I will only say was very close to another anatomical feature I don't think I need to mention. In here, doctor. Here it is. I was a little bit startled, but I tried to feel any mass without success. He gave some extra indications for me to look at, but the result was the same. All normal. By the end of it, I may have spent about 5 or more minutes with my hands in this man's genitals without finding anything abnormal, and I could see he was getting a little too happy, if you know what I mean. Nevertheless, while everything was kind of weird, there is nothing frankly scary yet. Me. Mr. Javier, I can't find them, but I will send you an ultrasound to check if anything is fine. Javier. Okay, doctor. Me. Please wait a second. My professor will check you too. I went looking for Dr. Michael, my tutor, so that he could do the corrections. I found him and told him the basics of the case, but things started to get extremely rare when he entered the room where Javier was waiting. Dr. Michael said, Mr. Javier, what are you doing here again? Dr. Michael, it's great seeing you. What can I say? The heinous pain keeps coming back no matter what I do. The last time I gave you an order for the urologist. Has he already seen you? Yes, doctor, but he didn't find a thing. Really? Did he send you any exams? No, not at all. Sure. Okay. Dr. Paco sent an MRI instead of the ultrasound. Let's see if we can find something this time. I printed the order and gave it to the man and sent him to the imaging unit. When we were alone, Dr. Michael asked me in a very serious tone, Did he do or say anything sexual to you? Tell me the truth. What? No, why do you think that? Did you see his medical record? No, I was ashamed. It was a very rookie mistake. Well, open it, he said. I did as told, and surprise, surprise. That was the 11th time Javier had come to the hospital with the same story in the last 5 months. Every log said basically the same, and in all cases, imaging was done without finding anything. I don't understand. He told me this was recent, that it hadn't happened before. He always says that. He also says he is in pain but never shows it. Remember what I said before? I've seen him 7 of that 11 times, and in 5 of them, he came when one of you was left alone. I was confused until one of your classmates told me he had been quite flirty with him during one of the checkups. So, you say he is a perv? I asked. Can't be sure, but I know the man is faking the symptoms and has nothing there. Even if he did, he doesn't care at all. See in the record, there is no urology consultation. He lied about going. To clarify, most, if not all the patients we saw in the ER were later sent on our own ambulatory services. So it would be exceptional if an external urologist saw him. What should I do? I asked. Don't worry. Go to my consultation room and work there. I'll take this one and do his reevaluation. You sure he didn't do anything? Well, he was a little bit exhibitionistic, but nothing more. Okay, thanks. You can go. I don't know what happened after that. I just felt very uncomfortable about the whole deal to bring it up to Dr. Michael again, or to find out which of my classmates were the ones that saw Javier on his previous visits. But I know after that day, I developed a healthy distrust of what my patients tell me. And I know this is not that sub, but Mr. Javier, I really hope we never meet again. Sometime in March 2025, I was delivering a catering order for my job to a doctor's office. As I was walking in the door to enter the vestibule, an older, kind of rough-looking man opened the door for me and helped me get through. When I got inside, I kindly told him thank you and went back to the front desk. While approaching the desk, the man that opened the door for me started trying to grab my bags out of my hands, repeatedly saying, "I hope they tipped you good." In my job description, I am supposed to be the only one touching the bags until I am given instructions by the receiving party. When I get to the desk where 3 women are sitting, I ask them where they want their food set up. One of them told me, "Through these doors all the way to the back on the left." The double doors had bright red letters. Authorized personnel only. None of the women working there escorted me to the back. The same man that opened the door for me is still yanking bags from my hands while I'm trying to tell him I can get it. He insisted on helping me carry the bags. At this point, I thought he might have worked there because no one else tried to help or walk me to the back. We get to the back where another woman is waiting for me. I asked her if she wanted me to set everything up, and she told me she did. I started getting everything out, and the man that had taken the bags from me is getting stuff out too. When I finished setting up the table, I heard him ask the woman a question. Her response was no, but thank you, sir. At this point, I was fully aware that he did not work there. It didn't make sense for her to respond that way as if they were coworkers. He also clearly did not look like he worked with me, as I work in a uniform and he was in a grayish kind of dirty sweatsuit. I start walking to the exit to get ahead of him. It was through the long narrow hallway that he followed me through before, but I hoped I could get ahead of him because he had a bit of a limp. However, he beat me to it, so I tried to go around. He starts walking in a zigzag, cutting off any way that I could go to get around him. When we get to the end of the hall back to the double doors, he stopped and looked at me, so I went to open it and he stood really close behind me. We finally get back into the lobby and I start to leave. He stops me and goes, "Let me ask you something. Did they tip you good?" I told him I didn't know and was going to leave. He stops me again, starts the same way. "Let me ask you something." Then says, "Can I have $3 to get to the bus? I did help you carry that stuff back there." I told him I didn't have any cash on me, but I could go look in my car to find some. At this point, assuming he was homeless. He looks at me like I offended him and says, "Oh no, I'm 69 years old and I do not do that," as I've just offered to have sex with him or something in my car as a thank you for his help. I told him no and said I could look in my car for cash and bring it inside to him. He followed me outside. I tried to run to my car to leave, but at this point he was watching me. So instead, I grabbed $5 from my passenger side and gave it to him. I tried to leave again and he stops me. "Let me ask you something. Why are you not in school?" I told him I wasn't in school. He walks closer to me. "Let me ask you something else. How old are you?" I lied and told him I was 26. Thought maybe he would back off, thinking I was older. He starts waving his arms in the air, making really loud sounds and laughing like he was shocked. He gets closer and says, "Well, let me tell you something. Don't get offended." He continues, "I thought you were maybe 19, trying to laugh it off." I told him I get that a lot and start to leave again. At that point, I had been able to pack up enough to get my passenger seat again. I jump in through the passenger side and get into the driver's seat, and he's walked closer to my car. I lock the doors and start to back up, look in my reverse camera, and he's standing behind my car with his phone out like he's taking pictures. During this entire interaction, because I was in my work uniform, he was able to get my name, my job, my work position, my car, and a picture of the driver's plate. I fully believed he was going to follow me back to my job, but thankfully he did not. When I got home and told my family what happened, somehow my mom knew somebody that had a similar experience with a man of the same description. I looked it up on Facebook and was able to find a picture, and sure enough, it was the same guy. A few days later, I ended up making a police report. Turns out he's not homeless at all, has a whole job in a house. The cop told me this man has been doing the same thing for 20 years, only harassing women and scaring them into giving him money. People report him all the time and nothing ever happens to him. I grew up in a shady area and would rarely leave home after 7 to 8 p.m., as it was considered dangerous. Going into high school, I got a pit bull. He was a gentle giant who loved everyone and everything. He had some protection work training before he joined our family, but as he was getting older, he retired and I took him home with me. So back to the story. I was, at this time, 17 female, short and blonde, but very aware of my size. But having a big scary dog, if you will, I finally felt safe walking alone. And on that very night, I had to set out to take a longer walk as my dog, let's call him Meatball, really needed to run off some energy. I took him to the woods near my home, and we walked along a gravel path that was partly lit. It was around 11 p.m. and quite dark outside. As we walked, I became aware of the fact that there really wasn't anybody else around at all. We walked for about 10 or 15 minutes before a man turned up behind us. We continued to walk, and I noticed he is taking the same turns as me and Meatball. I sped up, feeling my heart beating in my chest. Meatball, who normally spent his time sniffing at the end of the leash, was now also very aware of the situation. He had slowed down and gotten so close to my leg with full focus on this man. I started turning at every turn I could, and the man followed, even though we were now walking in circles. He started getting closer and closer to us as I am now sure he is following us. I remember something my father once told us. Never let someone follow you, as you are the most vulnerable from behind always. If you get in a situation where you can force your stalker to pass you, do it. I stopped and grabbed onto Meatball's leash. I leant back on the leash, acting as if it had to put my entire body weight in holding him back. Now I am aware that I, at this point in my life, looked small and weak, but as my father is an old veteran, I could fight before I could walk. And even holding Meatball back was not a task, as I was a lot stronger than I looked. While I called out, trying to sound as naive as I could, hoping that if I did have to fight, I would surprise him with my strength. Excuse me, my dog really does not like people, and I can't really hold him back when he lunges. If I step to the side, could you pass us so I have a chance at holding him back? As I say this, Meatball starts barking, growling and snapping towards the man, who is now stopped. He looks me up and down, stares at Meatball and turns around, not saying a word. He left pretty quickly, and I called my parents and asked them to meet me, as I now realized he could easily be hiding anywhere on our walk back. My dad showed up only a few minutes later, baseball bat in hand. Nothing really happened, but after being followed by this man at every turn I took for at least 35 minutes, I know this could have ended really badly if I had not had Meatball or my dad close by. This happened about 2 years ago in my hometown of Keno, Michigan. It's a town very far north, and while the landscape to the east of the town is very farmed and flat, the west of town is a very dark and forested area. Nearby, about 15 miles south, is the Roscommon State Park. People love to go camping out there, and it's safe and fun except for this instance. There was a husband and wife camping out near the middle of the state park in a small tent. It looked secluded from the newspaper article, but I guess not. At around 2 a.m. in the morning, a large man broke into the tent and beat them to death with a titanium baseball bat and a 4-inch switchblade. The police were alerted after a man hiking in the area smelled blood or decay or something and found them. He reported it to the police, and they ran their forensics, and it was in the paper the next morning. After this, everybody was on edge, but I didn't really care. It was autumn and hunting season for us up here. I was in the state park hunting with my Remington R25, a semi-automatic rifle, and .308 Winchester. I was hunting big game and needed a big gun. About 2 hours into my hunt, I came across a clearing and decided to soak in some of the rare sun that we get in that forest. I heard a twig break and ducked down behind a log, thinking it was an animal, but to my surprise I saw a man. I was about to get up and talk to him, but when he came into the light, I saw his ripped and bloody clothes and instantly backed down. There was no description of the killer in the paper, but I felt in my gut it was him. I readied my R25 at my side, about to light this man up if he made a move. He stared right in my direction, but there was no way he could see me, as I was behind cover. Eventually, about a minute later, he walked off away from my area and I dipped. Never went hunting out there again and have since upgraded my home defense solution. Never think it'll happen to you, but I was close to death. I could have just been another death, another statistic on some FBI document. When I female 21 was 17, I wanted to be an AU pair, and the only place close to me that I could go to as a 17-year-old was England. So I found this family, a mother with 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I messaged them and talked with the mother, and she seemed very interested and very nice. We set up a date for me to go, and that was that. When I got to the airport, I was very confused that they weren't there to pick me up. I messaged the mom to ask where they were and if it would take them long to get to me. She told me that she was on her way and she was stuck in traffic. I thought, okay, that's fair. She told me to go to the exit and wait. Then not long after, she told me that she was there and that she was in a blue car. I was looking around very confused since I couldn't really see any blue car there. When I finally found it, some other woman than the one I had been talking to walked out of the car and towards me. The instant I made eye contact with the mother, I got a long text from the woman I was supposed to work for, which basically said that her husband had come home from the country he worked in, and that they had fought because he didn't want an AU pair in the house, and for some reason she didn't want to tell me that, so she just gave me to her good friends who needed an AU pair. I was very confused, and by that time a bit scared as well. It all seemed very weird, as if somebody were watching me and had been waiting for the right moment to send that text. The woman seemed very friendly, but was hurrying with things, like taking my stuff and putting them in her car while talking to me. I'm a bit nervous and non-confrontational by default, so I didn't really know what to do or say other than just follow her in what she was doing. When it was all done, she told me that we should get going, and I told her that I wasn't really comfortable with everything. She told me that she understood that, but that she really needed the help and also only had 2 children at home. We had to move fast because of the place she was parked, so we got into the car and started driving out of the airport pickup spot. The second we started moving, I told her that I was very uncomfortable with this and I really wanted to get out and stay at the airport. She seemed a bit upset by this and told me that sure she could drop me off, but she had to get out where we were because she could get a ticket for letting me out there or something. I didn't know if this was true, just what I was told. We drove for a few minutes, still on the airport grounds, and we stopped a bit away so I could get out and call my parents. I talked to them crying the whole time. I noticed that while I was talking to them, the woman was inside her car talking to a woman, the one I had been talking to, I presume. I didn't understand the language, so I can't say what they were talking about. When I was done talking, I got into the car again, and I told her that I really wanted her to let me out, and she kept asking me if I was sure that I didn't want to go into town with her. What if I didn't want her to drop me off at the shopping center? I of course told her no, that I really want her to just take me out by the airport and let me out. She did, thankfully, and I went inside and talked with my parents. After this happened, I got some weird voice memos from her and 2 other people. I couldn't quite understand them, but it was very weird. My parents also tried contacting her, and she blocked them both. If you don't know, a lot of AU pairs are being treated very poorly, so for us to feel safe and secure, ensure that we don't get cheated out of pay or working more than we are allowed, we have to sign a contract. Later on, I found out that the contract she had been sent to me was fake and not really binding. I don't know how, but it wasn't legitimate. Plus her addresses she sent me were also fake, and she apparently didn't live there either. I found out later on in the city that I was in a bit of a hotspot for trafficking. I didn't know this until after this happened. A lot of sketchy stuff. I might be overthinking this one, and it might not be as bad as I think it was. But in the moment of it, I was sure something was going on, and I still kinda am. A lot of people seem to be confused as to why I got back in the car again. I'm sorry. We had driven a bit away from the airport to some hangars or whatever you call them so I could get out to call my parents. While I was out, I was only about 3 meters away from the car and the door was still ajar so I could hear the woman speaking on the phone. When I got back in, she was still talking with her but hung up after a minute or so. She had the lady on speaker, so that is why I could hear her. I asked her to drive me back to the airport, and that was when she tried convincing me to let her drive me into the city, and I told her no. All I have said in the comments. I now know how dangerous this could have been, getting back into the car with her, but I felt some sort of security that both my parents and 4 of my friends in the same city I was in knew what was going on. She drove me back to the airport parking lot so I could get on one of the buses to go back, since she would have to pay to get back in. For the backstory, my fiancé 24 and I 21 recently got an adorable 2-year-old German Shepherd back in the end of February. She's been a great addition to our family and she loves her mom so much. I've had many dogs in my childhood, but I've never had one as loyal or as smart as my current. Now this encounter happened a few weeks ago, but my mind still goes back to it every once in a while, so I thought I would share it here. My fiancé and I live together in an apartment complex, which is nice as it offers some nice amenities for our new pup, like a dog park and a large space of grass right outside of our apartment. We usually take our pup to this space of grass to let her run around and do her business whenever she needs. This one day, though, my fiance and I decided to take her out together and get some fresh air. It was a hot 90-degree-plus day, so I was only wearing a sports bra and shorts, trying to combat the overwhelming heat. I am walking her and taking her up and down the hill until she gets done doing what she needs to when I notice her turn to where there are some cars parked. She is the type of dog who loves other dogs but doesn't care one bit about humans, so I assumed maybe there was another dog around. Instead of turning back to finish her business, she keeps her eyes on the cars, purposely positioning herself between me and the cars. A few seconds later, I watch as a man exits from around the cars, me not noticing him before because of some foliage. During all of this, my fiancé is a little bit out of it, so he doesn't take any notice. But as the man walks around the cars and down the road around the grass, my pup is tracking him with her eyes and keeping the separation between the man and me. Eventually, the man stops and pulls out his phone, pointing it up to the sky to take a photo. My fiancé, still being the goof that he is, stares up at the sky too, commenting about how beautiful it looks. But because my pup is staring at the guy, I'm staring at him. I just have a feeling that there is something wrong with him. My pup doesn't care about other humans. They could walk by at any time and she would not even give them a second glance. But with him it was different. When he finished up taking the photo of this guy, I watched as he turned his phone towards me and my dog to take a photo of us. Now I know I was scantily clad because it was hot, and all I was doing was taking my dog out to poop, nothing else. I had locked eyes with the man as he turned his phone, and I could tell that it freaked him out a bit, seeing that I had caught him trying to snap a photo. He hurried away after getting caught, my pup and I watching as he walked down the road. Now I haven't seen him since that incident. I'm not sure if he lives in the complex or if he was just walking through, but I'm happy my dog was looking out for me. She got plenty of treats when we got back inside for that. This happened last night about a quarter after midnight. I was in my bed when I heard frantic knocking. I walked out of my bedroom while the knocking continued again and heard a woman saying, "Please help me," along with crying, but it was faint. I looked out the peephole to see nobody there and no other doors were being knocked on. Just mine, which is odd by itself, but I'm also on the 3rd floor. Why would somebody walk all the way up to my apartment if in distress? I think it was a recording because if somebody really needed help, they would be banging on everybody's door. I called the police immediately and the dispatcher told me not to open the door and if I had a weapon. I heard of this tactic before, although it is slightly different. Being a recording of a baby crying. It's just insane when thinking about the statistics of stranger abductions usually resulting in murder. Also, it's so sick to try and prey on people's empathy. Police drove by and I saw them using their spotlight to look through the complex, but as of now, I have no idea if anybody was found or by chance if someone was hurt, or if they even found her. I've barely slept with all the possibilities of how this person found me, where they saw me, when they followed me, or if they live in this complex. I am 4'10", live alone and don't know many people in the area. No family close by either. Have they been watching me and know all of this? I mean, it's just making me go insane. So, stay vigilant and don't fall for these kinds of tactics, and know that not everything you read on the internet is false. I heard about this a year ago and wonder if I hadn't already been aware of this, would I have opened the door? Where would I be right now? Would I even be alive? Update. I have talked with the management to let them know what is going on. As of right now, nobody else has reported to them of anything similar happening. I am going to contact the police again for an update. I was redirected to another police department if they weren't the ones who responded to the call. I know it takes time for reports to be filed, so I'm trying to be patient. I just want to know if this has happened to anybody else. I have ordered a Ring camera and I will be picking it up shortly. At least this way I could get video of them if they come back, and it will help me sleep better. As far as it being a prank, I guess absolutely it could be, but I would be more inclined to believe it if it happened to the other women in the apartment. Maybe it has, but they haven't said anything. On one side of the coin, it's a very cruel prank that I shouldn't worry about. On the other, somebody has been watching me and had something sinister in mind. Horrifying to think that somebody would pull an elaborate prank like this or real-world things that happen that we never think could happen to us. With guns and self-defense classes, I'll be getting both of these. But they both take time and a lot of money. I don't want to just get a cheap gun with no training, that won't help much. It will be something I will invest my time and money into, but for the short-term security, I can really only get a Ring camera and stay updated with the police. So, thank you to everyone for your helpful tips, like the neighborhood apps and gun safety. I appreciate so much during this very scary time for me. Another update, by the way. I finally have my Ring camera installed and working. I feel much safer knowing if they come back, I can at least have a recording of them. I know I need to talk to my neighbors, but right now I'm exhausted from no sleep and still spooked, so I will do that tomorrow. Also, hopefully the police report will be filed tomorrow, and I can talk to the deputy about this to see if there's any updates. It was mid-July, summertime in the Michigan countryside. I was a 17-year-old guy who at the time frequently visited my grandfather. 4 years earlier, my grandma had died from some sort of cancer. He was alone quite a bit, so you expect that to make me and my family nervous. For a 70-year-old man to be home alone all by himself. I drove over there one day and I saw him sitting on the porch. When I got out of my truck, we greeted each other and headed inside. He's your average grandpa, watches the news, complains about how the country has gone to shit, and tells stories from when he was younger. I really enjoyed being around him though. He's a real nice person. He bought the house about 10 years ago and had my dad help him fix it up. When my dad had died, it was mostly me there to help. You can say we grew closer. I stayed the night quite a few times, just to make sure everything was okay. I was about to head back when my grandpa slipped and fell in the kitchen, and of course I immediately helped him up. I helped him off to bed and I decided to stay. I slept in the guest bedroom, right by the basement stairs. I was about to go to sleep when I swore I heard a loud creak. Sometimes I let paranoia get the better of me, but I wasn't this time. I was fairly certain that it was the house settling. I tried to put it aside when I heard something in the kitchen. That was it. The paranoia set in, and I slowly got out of bed. It continued. It sounded like somebody was rummaging through a drawer or desk. They certainly weren't being quiet about it. I opened my door as slowly and cautiously as I could. In the hallway, there was a pantry, and on top of the shelf was a fully loaded .357. I knew because he showed it to me a few days prior. I inched out of my room, with adrenaline spiking. As I opened the pantry door, I had a simultaneous sense of caution and urgency. I reached up and felt the familiar feel of cold metal. I slowly pulled it down and pulled the hammer back. On the outside, I didn't look too scared, but on the inside, I was terrified. The same noises echoed throughout the house. Then I did the stupidest thing I've probably ever done. Who the hell's out there? I'm armed and I will shoot. Silence. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't do anything. Not until I heard the sliding glass door slam open. I ran out into the kitchen and out into the porch. I could barely make out the shape of a person sprinting towards the road. He turned the corner and went out of sight. I looked around and noticed down the steps that the cellar door was wide open. I had the gun as I inched down the steps, looking down the road and making sure the person was gone. I inspected the door. Every second I looked over my shoulder. The lock had not been fiddled with. Either they had a key or they picked the lock. Either way, I already had enough. I shut the door, locked it, and went inside. I inspected the kitchen. Papers were strewn about. Food was gone. The fridge was wide open. I have no idea what they were looking for. I walked down the hall and quietly opened my grandpa's door. His respirator hissed as he slept. Everything in here looked to be in order. I called the police and woke him up. He was just as confused as I was. When the police got there, I told them everything, and the next day they found the man. Apparently, he was the previous owner's grandson who was kicked out before the previous owner moved. He was a heavy drug addict and must have thought he still lived there. He had all the locks changed, and I stayed with my grandpa more frequently. I have no idea what would have happened if I hadn't been there that night. I'm also certain that this was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. Nothing has happened since, and I'm going to San Diego to boot camp to become a Marine. I just hope for nothing when I'm gone.